Jack, yeah, she thought she was being devious. What she didn't know was that I had heard about all of this from someone she worked with who was disgusted by what was going on. I made my plans and prepared. Thankfully, I had time to deal with the rage and prepare for what was about to happen. It would all start tonight, right after dinner, Kayla tonight. Then my friend Mary asked, "Yeah, I'm finally going to do it. I'll wait after dinner, get him a beer, and then I'll tell you what happens." I replied, "Just remember to be strong. He won't like it, but you have to stay strong. I'll remember that." Just like we agreed, he doesn't have a choice. This is how it's going to be, and if he really loves me, he'll let me do this for my happiness. That's right. Just be prepared for him to yell and scream. He'll try to fight it, but eventually he'll come to his senses and accept the new reality. It's important that you stay calm but firm. Let him have a tantrum, and then he'll realize that you're in charge, that's right. Besides, as far as he knows, this will only be temporary once he accepts it. He'll start to like it. Then it'll just keep going. Are you sure about all this? Jack can be very stubborn. Look, Kayla, Jack loves you more than anything in the world. Sure, he'll get angry, but when he calms down, he'll realize that he loves you so much that he'll do anything to make you happy. Even that, okay. I think you're the expert. Trust me, it took me messing up 2 marriages to figure it all out. But I perfected the method on my 3rd marriage. You've met my current husband. He is now completely under my control. He even stands next to the bed when I __ one of my bulls. I also sometimes have him clean me after I'm done a month from now. Another Jack will get in line as well. Then you can be assured of the security of your marriage to Jack, as well as the pleasure of several other men. I finished the day and went home to cook Jack his favorite dinner. When Jack came home, he greeted me with the words, I love you, and kissed me on the cheek. As usual, despite my best efforts, I was still nervous. This was going to be a big step and change in our marriage, but it was all worth it. Mary had been telling me about her feminine marriage ministry for quite some time now. I have personally seen it work for her and her husband. He was really happy with how their marriage turned out. I'm sure Jack would love it too. The conversation over dinner was enjoyable. We told each other about the previous day and discussed some of the new news of the day. It was a casual dinner for us. After dinner, I insisted that he grab a beer and go rest while I cleaned up. He resisted, a little wanting to help, but I told him it wasn't much, and I could handle it. The leftovers were put away, the dishes were put in the dishwasher, and it was time I poured myself a glass of wine, mentally prepared myself, and went into the living room for the confrontation. "Jack, honey, we need to talk. I started your honey about what okay, Jack. I realize this might be hard for you to accept right now, but it's something I really need to do. Please keep in mind that this is only temporary, okay? So what do you need if it's that important to you? Of course, I'll do what I can for your happiness." So far, he had taken it pretty well. He wasn't even bothered. That's good. So we've discussed having kids, and I'm almost ready to do that, but there are a couple other things I feel I need to do first that should be a couple months at most, and then we can start working on having some kids. That's great, baby. So what are those things that you need to do here? It is... I took a deep breath and braced myself for the fireworks. Well, Jack, I need to sow the last of the wild oat seeds. It will only be temporary. Then I can settle down completely and be the best wife and mother to our children you could ever dream of. All right, my love, that sounds reasonable so far, but how are you going to sow those wild oats? Wow, he's really taking it well. I expected him to freak out. I'll be seeing other men for a while. We'll still make love on a regular basis. But I'll also have sex with some other guys to get it all out of my head. Keep in mind that it's only sex with other guys. You are the only one who gets my love. I will come back to you in a couple months and be your faithful wife again, and then we can start working on having the kids we've been planning. Well, Kayla, you don't seem to be asking my permission to do this, so I'm assuming you've already made up your mind. If that's the case, I'd just like to go on record as saying that I'm not in favor of it. If you're asking for my permission or consent, I'm not giving it. However, you're a grown woman with a mind of your own, so I won't stop you if it's something you really feel you need to do. Things were going better than I could have imagined. He didn't even raise his voice. It was all said in a very conversational manner. Mary must be right. Jack will accept the new role I'll be preparing him for. So, Kayla, how exactly is this going to work? Are you going to move in, or do you expect me to move in? Are you going to bring them here to have sex? Are you going to go to their place or a hotel? Oh, well, I've decided that we're both going to keep living here after all. We're married anyway. And like I said, we're going to keep making love. The other guys will just be sex with you. I'll be making love. I would assume that I will go to them sometimes, but I will probably bring them here sometimes. In those cases, you'll have to sleep in the spare bedroom during those nights. I really don't see the need to pay for a hotel room since we could just come here. Okay, again. Let me reiterate that I am not in favor of this. However, I must insist that we not have sex while this is going on. I'm sorry, but it's for my own health, since I have no idea who these people are or what their backgrounds are. I won't risk catching any STDs that they might pass on to you. Besides, once you're done and decide to come back to me, we'll need to wait until you've been tested and cleared of anything. Go have fun and don't worry about me. Well, Jack can't say I'm not disappointed in this after all. I love you and always enjoy our lovemaking, but I understand your concern. I guess I'll just have to live with it. That's great, honey. So, when do you plan to start your little flings? Well, Mary and I have decided to go to a club and meet a couple guys from work tomorrow night. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I might bring one of them back for the night since you're not going to have sex with me while I'm doing it anyway. Maybe it would be best if you just move into a spare room for the next couple months, okay? Kayla, don't worry about it. I'll take care of moving in by the time you get home tomorrow night, said Jack, before going back to reading the paper. I just couldn't believe how mature he was about the whole thing. My heart soared. Sure, he weakly complained and refused to have sex with me, but he was completely accepting of everything. He wasn't even the least bit angry. Mary was definitely right. In 2 months, Jack would be under my thumb. Besides, I knew this lack of sex was only temporary. In a week or two, he'd be back in my bed. Then I would just use the vaginal wrench to get him to fully embrace his new role as my submissive little hubby the next day. Hi, Mary. It's Kayla. Hey, girl. So how'd it go last night? Oh my God, you wouldn't believe how mature Jack was about everything. I expected him to go nuclear, but he didn't even raise his voice. He was just so calm and accepting of it all. Wow, that's great. I told you he'd complied. Do you think you'd be able to convince him to watch tonight? I doubt it. In fact, I don't think I'll even suggest it. He said he'd refuse to have sex with me while I'm ... Someone else. I'm sure that won't last long after a week or two of using his hands, knowing he has a beautiful woman by his side, and he'll be right back. That could be a lot of fun since he refused to touch me. I just went ahead and made him move to the spare room. He is packing his things. Now he promised me that he would completely move out of the owner's bedroom before I came home tonight. Ha ha! I love that you changed the name from master bedroom to master bedroom. I'm going to have to start doing that myself. Oh, definitely. Anyway, I should probably get ready. I'll meet you at the club. Okay, bye-bye. Later that night, Jack had made pretty good progress on boxing up all the stuff from my bedroom. I wasn't sure why he really needed to pack when he could just carry armfuls of stuff down the hall, but he explained that it was better that way. It would be less walking, and he could go through everything and leave the things he really didn't need in boxes to get rid of. I guess that made some sense, but I was too busy getting ready to pay attention. He did say how sexy I looked in my thong garter belt stockings and 5-in loafers. He said nothing when I wore the little red cocktail dress I got for our 5th anniversary last year. That was actually the only time I wore it, but I looked damn good in it. Okay, Jack, I'm going out. I'll probably be back around 1 a.m., so you don't have to wait for me. Besides, I probably won't be alone. I told him, picking up my clutch and getting ready to walk out the door. Don't worry, Swee, I'll have moved out by then. He promised, closing the last box. Something kept bugging me as I walked out of the house. I couldn't figure out what it could be, but it bothered me a little. I decided it didn't matter, so I put it out of my mind and started thinking about the fun and excitement I would have tonight. I met Mary, Larry, and Josh at the club. Larry and Josh were the account managers. Both were very good-looking, and according to Mary and a couple of the other girls in the office, very well hung, while Jack is a little larger than average. I couldn't wait to get a really big ... inside me. Presumably not only were they big, but they knew how to use them to their fullest potential. So Jack had actually moved into the spare bedroom, Mary asked when our first order arrived. Yes, he just finished packing. When I left, he promised that by the time I got back, he'd be completely moved out, I answered. Did he just say that? Josh asked. Yes, when I told him what time I should be home, he said, and I quote, I'll have moved out by then. All 4 of us laughed. I was hoping we'd just get that little cuck to move over so we could do it on the bed right next to him. Larry laughed. Maybe after I work on him for a week or two. I chuckled. But first of all, why haven't either of you asked me to dance yet? For several hours, we danced and drank. I danced with both guys several times. We pressed tightly against each other during the slow songs, and I could feel their erections pressing against me. Of course, their hands were on my ass most of the night. Mary and I went to the ladies' room to discuss the end of the night. 3 rounds of rock, paper, scissors had me driving Josh home, and Larry, the house was dark when I led Josh through the front door. Jack must be in bed by now. Everything's okay anyway. We didn't need him watching. I led Josh down the hall to my room. Of course, all of Jack's stuff was gone. Maybe I should reward him by offering him a hand job. There would be something to think about later. Right now, I had other things that required my attention. It didn't take us long to get undressed, but Jay wanted me to leave the garter belt and stockings on. I'd lost my thong a couple hours ago. I still wasn't sure if it was Larry's or Josh's. It didn't matter. I was making enough money so I could always buy others. The next 2 hours were sheer bliss. We started with the missionary, then turned to the doggy to keep him from getting exhausted too quickly. We finished that round with the cowgirl. We rested for a few minutes. I liked it when he spanked my ass while I rode him. Who knows, maybe I'll let Jack do it on his birthday or our anniversary, but there wouldn't be another time. I'd save it for my other lovers. We ended up doing it again in the shower before going to bed for the night, and again when we woke up the next morning after that. Josh had to leave and go back to his wife and kids, so I put on my robe and went to get some coffee. I was a little disappointed that Jack hadn't made coffee yet. After all, it was past 9 o'clock. Usually he'd be up for an hour by now. I'll talk to him about it later. I mean, would it kill him to make me coffee and breakfast after I'd stayed up late so much for the handiwork I was going to offer him as a reward for moving into the spare bedroom while I was gone after eating my breakfast bagel? I went to the shower and got dressed. The hot water was just what I needed to soothe my sore muscles. I didn't have anything to do today, so I decided to wear my old shorts and a t-shirt. Since I was only going to be around Jack, I put on a functional bra and an old pair of regular panties. I had just finished pulling my hair into a ponytail when the phone rang. "Hey, girlfriend. I saw it was Mary. Hey, sexy thing. So how was Josh last night?" "He was amazing. It was exactly as I thought it would be." Speaking of Jack, what was his reaction this morning? I don't know. I'm a little angry because he seems to be asleep. I was disappointed that he didn't make me breakfast and coffee this morning. I was thinking of offering him a part-time job for being moved to the spare room. But now I don't think so. Yes, make sure he knows how disappointed you are and what you expect from this moment. Continue to be aggressive with him. But make sure you give him small rewards when he does something good. This will give him incentive to try harder. I'm actually starting to get angry that he still hasn't gotten up. Wait a minute while I get his lazy ass out of bed. I walked down the hall to the spare bedroom and pounded on the door, shouting his name. There was no response. I tried again. There was still no answer. Finally, I turned the knob and swung the door open. "Oh, underscore. I exclaimed. "What's wrong?" Mary asked on the phone. "Jack isn't in the spare bedroom. His clothes aren't even in the closet." "Wait," I said, running through the house. Underscore. "His truck is gone, as are all his tools." That little stirring in the back of my head was starting to take shape. "Oh no," I gasped. What is it?" Mary asked. "Jack's moved out." Now I understood what he was talking about. He never said he would move his stuff into the spare room. He only said he would move his stuff out of my room. Then he said he would move in before I returned. I thought he meant he would move out of my room, but he meant he would move out of the whole house. I need to call him and find out where he's gone. No, this is wrong. It sends him a message of weakness. You have to stay strong. Don't contact him. Let him contact you. Trust me right now. He's just having a little tantrum in a couple days. He'll come crawling back to you. This is actually a very good thing. Now you have a reason to punish him and make him beg to do something for you to let him come back. It speeds up the process. I bet you could even let Josh or Larry knock you up and make Jack raise the baby. Are you sure about that?" "I'm sure. Look what my husband does for me." "Well, I have to admit you've been right so far. Of course I am." "Oh, and Larry wants to meet you in the supply closet at work for an hour on Monday. Can we really get away with that?" "Sure, at least half the girls are doing it. It's so bad I have to do it on a schedule. I'll email you the meeting time. Just put it down as an appointment somewhere else. Don't worry about it. The boss never goes there, and everyone who needs something there knows to ask me." Before going to get something, we chatted for a while longer before hanging up. I'll admit I was nervous about Jack's move. Aside from what my actions might suggest, I really do love him and want to spend the rest of my life with him. Mary just made FLLM sound so good, and it would allow me to try all sorts of different men. Of course, I will eventually give up on other men, but Jack will remain my faithful and obedient husband. Maybe in a few years I can make a deal with Jack to let me start tying him down if I stop, __. Other guys, obviously that won't happen until I'm ready to give it up anyway, but he doesn't need to know that. Yeah, maybe I could use tying up as a condition of his return. I'd have to think about that anyway. I needed to recuperate after last night, and I had a long, hard day at work tomorrow. I had to laugh it off. I made a simple dinner, had a glass of wine, and went to bed Friday morning all week. I hadn't heard from Jack. Mary convinced me that it wasn't that unexpected. She was sure I would hear from him soon. Besides, the longer he was away, the more conditions I could set for his return this week. I'd been meeting Larry, Josh, and a couple other cute guys in the pantry every day. I even had a double team of Larry and Josh scheduled for this afternoon. It was Friday morning. Larry, Josh, Mary, and I were chatting around the coffee machine during our break when we noticed a rather attractive young woman approaching. She was dressed very professionally. Kayla Adams, Mary Morgan, Josh Johnson, and Larry Jones, she asked in a sweet southern voice. We introduced ourselves. Then she handed each of us an envelope and quickly snapped a picture with a small digital camera. "You've all been served," she said, turning and heading toward our boss's office. "What's this?" I shouted after her. "Honey, they pay me to hand them out as a joke, not read them." She shouted over her shoulder. She entered the boss's office without knocking. She came out less than a minute later, wishing you all a good day. She said cheerfully as she walked out of the building. We all opened our individual packets at the same time. A petition for dissolution of marriage wholly, __. Reading on the reason given was spousal cheating. I froze in shock about that time. Josh and Larry's cell phones rang. __. They shouted it would be too confusing to try to record two simultaneous conversations here instead. I'll summarize. It was their wives. A few minutes ago, they had received all the proof of their deeds. All their belongings were about to be thrown out the door, and from now on, they would have to take turns sleeping. They should also have expected to be served with divorce papers at the earliest opportunity. What the __, roared our boss from the depths of the office. Suddenly, he appeared in the doorway. Noticing the four of us, he yelled so loudly that the whole office, and it was not a small office, could hear him. "Adams, Morgan, Johnson, Jones, get your asses in here now." I had a very bad feeling about this. With our heads down, we walked past him into his office. He slammed the door behind us. "The bad doesn't even begin to cover it. Any of you idiots want to explain this to me?" he asked, waving a manila paper arm envelope in front of us. None of us dared to speak. "Then let me enlighten you idiots. Apparently, the company is being sued for not following the moral code we have in our employee handbook. Any idea why anyone would want to do that? Once again, we couldn't bring ourselves to speak. Then I'll explain it to you. We are being sued because apparently Mrs. Adams can't seem to keep her legs closed. Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson can't seem to keep their Johnsons in their pants, and Mrs. Jones Morgan has decided to turn our storage room into a company brothel. Now, would any of you dumbasses be so kind as to assure me that any of these statements are invalid? Can any of you brainless idiots confirm to me that at least none of this __, happened during business hours and on company property? Anyone know? Are you guys serious? What the hell were you __, idiots thinking, and you __? Want to know what a real nightmare this is? This __. Court order won't even let me fire you until the case is settled. Now, get the hell out of my office until I figure out what the hell to do with you for. __. With our heads down, we walked out of his office and headed for our room. I hardly had a real job after that. At least I still had a job. I decided to go through the divorce petition and see how bad it would be. It was bad. It had pictures, videos, audio, and even some notarized letters. An hour later came a company-wide email from the boss to all. "Employees, it has come to management's attention that employees have repeatedly planned and executed actions in direct contravention of the moral code of conduct detailed in the employee handbook, in responsibility to worker time and company property, as this has unfortunately been done by real employees, with the likelihood that this problem is more widespread than what is currently documented. Drastic action will be taken. Unfortunately, management cannot be certain who and how many employees are responsible for these actions, so the following actions are being taken. All employees are required to familiarize themselves with the code of morals in the employee handbook. This weekend, he will be working on an online class for this, where every employee will have to successfully complete the class. All employees must complete this by next Friday. Security will be doing spot checks of all secluded areas throughout the day. This will happen several times a day until permanent security cameras are installed to monitor these locations. From that point on, the storage room will be locked. The key will be in the possession of the security supervisor. Any supplies needed must be brought in by security escort. He will closely monitor computer use to ensure that no personal use is being made of company assets. Prohibited activities include, but are not limited to, scheduling non-work-rated meetings with coworkers or others during work or non-work hours using personal email accounts on company computers. Browsing non-work-related websites, text messaging that is not work-related. Socializing with coworkers should be strictly limited to the break room during scheduled breaks and lunch periods. Security personnel will roam the building to monitor this in accordance with company policy. The names of those responsible for these actions will not be disclosed. I'm sure it won't be necessary anyway. 2 minutes later, my email exploded with hate mail from coworkers I met the other 3 after work at a bar across the street. We sat down at a small table in the corner. There were a few other co-workers at Friday happy hour. Yes, their looks at us were not pleasant. At least we still have work to do, at least for a while. That was very nice of him. Why do you think Jack included that in the court order? I asked. Oh, please, Josh replied. It's pretty damn obvious he wasn't trying not to hurt you too much. He did it to hurt you even more. What do you mean by that alimony now? It may not matter now because he's using adultery as a reason, but it's just insurance against it. If you have a good job and a decent income, there's no way in hell a judge is going to award you alimony. However, if you get laid off and can't find another job, a sympathetic judge may be convinced that you'll need financial assistance until you get back on your feet, so you stay at your job until your divorce is final. Yay for you! Once the divorce becomes final, all 4 of you suddenly bounce on your butts in the parking lot after the layoff. What happens then? No alimony and suddenly no job. __. Then I'll just resign on Monday. Oh my God, you really are a natural blonde, aren't you? Larry asked. What do you mean by that? A resignation is when you leave a job of your own free will. If you even try to ask for alimony after you voluntarily quit your job, the judge will have to ask why you left your well-paying job right after you filed the divorce papers. Good luck convincing the judge that this was not done to get your ex to give you support. All the judge will see when he looks at you is a gold digging. __. No, your best bet is to hang on to your job as long as you can and save every penny you can. Josh and I are going to be even worse off. You can bet that our wives will get alimony as well as child support. Since we both have children, what do you think will happen when we are suddenly laid off and can't find another job that pays almost as much? Keep in mind that alimony and child support are based on income at the time of the divorce. Damn, this FM thing sounded far from good right now. I realized I needed to talk to Jack and try to work things out. Sure, I wanted to help my friends, but I just couldn't lose my husband. What the hell was I thinking? Screw my friends if I need to throw them under the bus to save my marriage? Let the tossing begin. I quickly pulled out my cell phone. I'm sorry, but the number you dialed does not accept calls from this number. __. Mary, give me your phone. Why? Because Jack blocked my number. I need to talk to him and get this damn storm fixed. She handed me her phone, and my 3 companions looked at me questioningly. I'm sorry, but the number you have dialed does not accept calls from this number. __. He's blocked yours too. Try Larry or Josh. Not a good idea. I'm trying to fix it. What do you think he'll do if he finds out the first call I make to him is from one of my lover's phones? Yeah, I know you already think I'm stupid at this point. I can't even refute it. I was in a panic. How am I supposed to find my husband, who really doesn't want to be found on a Friday night sleeping over at his work, is useless, as it's also closed and he doesn't work on weekends since my cell phone, like Mary's, is blocked. I'm pretty sure he's also blocked our home phone and my work phone. I decided that talking on the phone wasn't going to work anyway. I needed to do it face-to-face. I needed to find out where he was and ambush him to hell with the whole women's marriage crap. Right now, I'd gladly submit to him completely to get my husband back. God, things have changed just this morning. I was thinking about how I'd make him beg and gravel to come home. Any guesses on who would be begging and graveling? Now I picked up my phone and started going through my contacts. Sure enough, at least one of his friends knows where I can find him. Spoiler. None of our mutual friends knew anything well that wasn't exactly true. None of the previous mutual UL friends who remained friends with me knew anything the numerous mutual friends who now hated me knew enough. Unfortunately, while they had no reservations about letting me know that they knew exactly where I could find him, they also defiantly refused to reveal that information to me. I was met with laughter when I asked if they would be so kind as to give him a message from me. I had just dejectedly finished my last call and fourth drink. That's when Josh showed his intelligence. Yes, it was said. Sarcastically, maybe it was just my mood at the time, or it could have just been the result of the differences between how a woman thinks and how a man thinks. Perhaps some of you will actually think that what Josh suggested was really brilliant. Me, I don't think so. Well, Josh began, since our lives are all ... up anyway, why don't we go to Kayla's and spend the whole night as a foursome? We've already ... so we can take advantage of that and have sex all night long. He thought that was sound logic maybe to him, but I'd just gotten a big dose of common sense. Of course, if there's nothing left to lose, there might be something to think about personally. I think Jack and I still have a tiny chance. That tiny chance would evaporate faster than a drop of water on the surface of the sun. If I took everyone into the house and had a late-night orgy with them, I politely declined and offered to let Mary take them home. I had a husband I was trying to get back. I tried everything I could think of to find Jack on the weekends. I drove around motel parking lots for hours looking for his truck. I drove past all of his friends' houses at different times to see if his truck was there. I even tried to follow his best friend when I saw him leaving his house, hoping he would go to where Jack was. It was all in vain. Monday morning, I camped across the street from his work. That morning, I saw everyone come in, but Jack never showed up. I waited another hour, still nothing. Even though I was already late for work, I didn't care. They weren't going to fire me right now anyway, and I'd still get fired after the settlement, but that didn't matter. I got out of the car and headed for the office. I saw that the door to Jack's office was closed, so I asked the receptionist if Jack was here. She told me he was gone for 2 weeks. The boss threw me an angry look when I walked in 2 hours late. I didn't care. All the phones I could have used are blocked. His friends refuse to help. I can't even get a message to him at work. I have no idea where he is, so I can't show up on his doorstep. Mail is not an option because I have no idea where to send it. What are my options? Email. He always checks email. I just have to hope he doesn't block my emails. There's nothing wrong with trying, Jack. I have no excuse, so I won't waste our time trying to give you one. I'll just say that I've somehow contracted the disease of fools. I don't blame Mary for it, because I was the one who made the decision. But I just thought it was so wonderful to hear her talk about women's marriage. I have no idea what made me think there was the slightest chance you'd accept it anyway. Yeah, I should have known better. I'm really sorry you had to metaphorically hit me over the head to wake me up. I'm awake now. I need you to know that I am deeply embarrassed and regret my actions. I realize you won't accept that anyway. Jack, despite my recent actions, I truly love you with my whole being. Don't think for a second that you did anything wrong. It was just me being an incredible idiot and selfish. Jack, my love, even though I don't deserve it, I beg you to forgive me. I need you to let me come back, and I'm willing to give you anything to make that happen. I saw how foolish it was of me to try to create Flam, but I would be thrilled to be a part of MLF. Yes, Jack, I'm giving you my soul, and you're just giving me orders. I will literally do anything you want me to do to get back to where I belong with you. Yeah, I know the definition of the word anything. Please, Jack, I'm offering you anything. You know, I've never had the slightest interest in women, and yet I'll eat your cream pie out of another woman for you. I'll serve you and any of your friends at a Super Bowl party wearing only a garter belt, stockings, and high heels if it brings me back to you. You want to take me in the ass. Just tell me to bend over the nearest chair regardless of who else is watching. Would it help to spank my ass with a leather belt? Just tell me when and where I'll even bring you the belt. Since you have absolutely no reason to trust me, I'll gladly put on the chastity belt and give you the keys, since it was already a condition of my return to you. I've already had my blood drawn for an STD test. The results should be back in a couple days. Just tell me where to send the results and I'll get them to you, Jack. I know that no matter what happens, you're the best person I've ever known. I know you could never bring yourself to hurt me, even though I probably deserve it. I accept it all. I'm not asking you to forget or at least trust me again. All I'm asking for is the opportunity to be yours in any capacity you desire. I ask for nothing more than to come back to you forever, even if I have to agree to a divorce or watch you have sex with other women to do it. I pray it doesn't happen, but I realize it's not my decision. I am the one at fault. And I recognize that you might want to even the score goose-goosey all that crap. What about Mary, Larry, Josh, and the lawsuit against my company? Mary manipulated me into agreeing to this plan. Josh and Larry took advantage of that. As you know, I will be fired as soon as the lawsuit against the company is settled. It's all our fault. Do what you want with them. I'll even help if you want me to. After all, I am your willing slave from now on. Your loving slave, Kayla. Epilogue. Thankfully, Jack hasn't blocked my email yet. What's even more surprising is that he actually read it. No, he didn't take my word for it. After all, I'd already broken the biggest I'd ever made. You know, the one about leaving everyone else behind. Since I'd broken that promise, what could make him think I wouldn't break any other promises? All I could do was prove it to him one action at a time. It had been 2 years since I'd sent that letter. Josh and Larry had been pretty well raped in their divorces. All 4 of us were fired. The day after the lawsuit against the company was settled, Josh and Larry eventually managed to find another job with much lower pay. They had to move into a small one-bedroom apartment in one of the worst neighborhoods in the city, since no decent woman wants anything to do with a guy who can barely afford to pay rent. Their social lives became largely non-existent. Their ex-wives used this opportunity to turn the kids against them. I realized that both women are in much better relationships now. Me right now, I'm kneeling naked beside the bed wearing a chastity belt while Jack finishes. This is my penance. I put all this in a letter. Yes, Jack wanted to test me and see if I would honor those words or not if I want him back. I really don't have much choice. It was a pretty rough 6 months, but eventually he backed off a bit. He still makes me do it sometimes like now. But it's gotten better now. He only brings other women home once every 2 months now. After I was fired, I stopped working. Jack got a promotion and earns enough that we get along just fine without my income. I stay home most of the time and take care of the kids in the house. We have 2-year-old old twins. I'm naked most of the time, although Jack recently said that I need to start wearing clothes at home. Soon the kids are getting old enough that it feels weird otherwise. But right now I only wear clothes when I leave the house or when we have guests. I still open the door naked for deliveries. I had laser hair removal. So now I have a permanent landing strip over my ... This makes it impossible to hide my Jack tattoo tattooed on the right side of the band and Jack tattooed on the left side. Every week, Jack also updates the 5 red stripes on my ass with a leather strap right after the 5th stroke. He pulls out my plug and has me in my ass as I lean over the couch. I'm not perfect. Sometimes there are more stripes on my ass or on my chest when I ... up, but I really enjoy it. Who knew the sting of a strap-on would cause a bog? Mary, well, she's still married. Sure, she was fired too, but no one really expected her to actually suffer any serious consequences. Her husband was completely under her thumb. She would just find another job and life would go on for her. Oh well, life isn't always fair. Yes, it is. Turns out Harold wasn't the submissive loser everyone thought he was. Once he got all the evidence, he got angry. I thought I'd had a rough 6 months, but that was a picnic compared to hers. Then, deciding he had punished her enough, he handed her the divorce papers. While he put Mary through hell, he quietly liquidated all of their assets and secured them. He gave her the house after refinancing it and taking all the equity, and then disappeared. She lost the house and all the money was gone. She found another job, but only for half the salary she used to get. She has a reputation too, but she's not dating right now. She has another month of antibiotics ahead of her. You're probably wondering why I put up with this or laughing at how I got what I deserved if you're mad because Jack didn't leave me out in the cold. I thank God every day that he didn't, even though I deserved it. I put up with it because I just can't imagine not having the love of my life with me. Sure, Jack whips and humiliates me, But he still loves me. He has other women, but never without me. I can leave whenever I want. And Jack showed me papers where he would be perfectly fair in the divorce. I turned down the offer. He is a wonderful father lover and husband. I don't need anything else. I got so caught up in the thought of women's marriage that I lost sight of what was really important. Instead of being happy in an equal relationship, I now became subservient to my husband. It wasn't supposed to happen, but I'm content.